Hey guys, this is Jennifer from the Shooter's Mindset, and we are live with episode 386. We have our co-host this week, Greg Cannon's with us. How's it going?
Hey, everyone.
And our guest of the hour this week, that's who everybody always really wants to hear from, is Eric Allread from Cool Acres. How's it going, Eric?
It's going well.
So we'll go ahead and get started. For anybody that's unfamiliar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into competitive shooting, kind of your history in the sport, and then how you ended up involved in PRS?
Well, as a much younger man, I shot in the military. I shot before that as a youth, but then I was in the military. I was in the Ranger Battalion from 1982 to 1986. And when I arrived there, I was a 90mm anti-tank gunner helper. I toted all the heavy stuff until we went to the shooting range, and I cleaned everybody's plow a couple of times in a row, and then they pulled me out and set me to the side. And that's pretty much what I did for the next 3.5 years. But after that, I got out. I didn't pick a rifle up for about 6 years. And then I bought this property to host my family and friends and my customers. And we started shooting, and I just loved to shoot. And from there, it just kept progressing. We'd have little matches, and people would come over, and we'd see who could shoot the farthest and hit something. This is long before the rifles, the accuracy of the rifles of today. So if you was hitting something at 600 and 700 yards with something you got out of the gun store, you were doing pretty good back then. But from there, it's just kept evolving until you see what there is there today. Getting involved with the PRS, I tried my own hand at it probably back in about 92, but I was still too fresh from the military, and I kind of run it like the military, and I didn't have a lot of patience for some of the feedback that we got, and I didn't get the fact that it's entertainment. To me, it was still too fresh, so I could never figure it out. We shot F class. We've shot bench rest on the range, and that's where that's probably where all the loading skills come from. Those formats require very, very good precision, to say the least. Both of those. I was a little late coming to the PRS format. I wish I would have got in the beginning, but everybody kept talking about it, and a friend of mine, Andy Lewis, come down there, and he had never even shot before. It was his first. I think I was about the second place he came, but he was all really up on shooting and wanting to go with it. He kept talking about the PRS. So we tried a couple little matches. They didn't. They went well, but they didn't go exactly as well as I like things to go. So then we kind of changed gears, and Brandon Hemby, Andy brought him down there. I started talking with him, and he got us on the right track, and things started to really go the way they needed to go. And we provide a very up to speed format for shooting entertainment currently. But the PRS is great. They've got a great format. The best, I think it's the best run shooting organization for precision rifles there is. It's just everybody has a good time. I mean, just like anything, you're going to have people that their day doesn't go the way they want it to. But you're your master of your own disaster sometimes.
Usually.
Yeah, usually it's my fault.
It's not the format's fault. It's an excellent format.
Yes, it is. You guys have kind of adapted to that format very well out there. You know, I I don't know at what point in time of you running matches and me starting to come out there and shoot it was, but I've been there, you know, shooting out there for a while now. And you could tell everything that you guys have been doing out there has been evolving and getting better, you know, match after match and year after year. Oh, I wish I had my matchbook with me. Are you guys the
Cool.
first ones to make those like super cute little matchbooks? I've literally never seen them until I
No,
came out there.
no, we were not. And that goes back to Brandon Hemby. He went somewhere out west and shot. And unfortunately, I can't remember which range it was, but that was something he brought back from there. And but it is really, they are excellent. My wife does all the printing and putting together that. Without her, we wouldn't have it, but she does a fantastic job.
She really does. I know every match I'm out there for, she's running nonstop all day.
Oh, weeks and months, every day. There's a lot to do for things to come off smoothly. I'm sure you're aware, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
So for people that don't know, that aren't local to the Southeast, so you own Cool Acres Sporting Camp. And how, I know you kind of said Brandon Hembry getting into, but how did y'all end up being a, because aren't y'all a regional match now?
Right. Well, then let's see, about a year and a half ago, I can't really remember, but MPA, Phil Cashin, he brought that to Cool Acres. It's he brought his regional matches to Cool Acres. That's really what, that really opened the door big time for us to host a lot of people. And it has been a fabulous working relationship with Phil, with everybody in the organization. I mean, it's just been, they've been very helpful and attention to detail. If we have an issue, it's handled very quickly. And, you know, we're trying to get up to speed. We're not 30 or 40. So sometimes we're a little bit slow on the technical side of things, but we get there.
That's all right. There's nothing wrong with doing it the old fashioned way.
That's right.
That's what I say. It's perfectly fine.
Well, it's just easier when that's the way you've done it all your life. And it's like these computers.
But y'all make more and more improvements to the range itself, don't you?
Exactly. I really, what I've tried to do with the shooters coming here is stop spending my money and start spending a little bit of money that the thing is generating. It prior to the PRS, it really never generated that much. And so what you saw there was everything coming out of my pocket that I could stand to put there. Kind of like the fella in the movie Field of Dreams. He's building his Field of Dreams. He's got everything he's got there. I mean, that's all there is. But with the money coming in from these matches, it all goes back in there. I haven't stopped putting my money in it yet, some of it, but just not, I'm trying to wean myself off of that and not put any in there in the hopes that one day there may be a return.
That's what it is when you're doing something that you're truly passionate about, though. You know, you're
That's
like,
right.
well, you know, I could wait, you know, run one more match and then build this cool new thing, but like pull a little bit of cash out of my wallet and then go for it.
It's all about, like I said, we're selling entertainment. It's all about the creature comforts for the shooters. If it's raining, I want them to have somewhere to get out of the rain. If the sun's out there beating down on them, it's Cool Acres. You got to get cool. You get up under that shed and you're going to be cooler. I promise you. I put out earlier this year, I put out misting fans, you know, just something to lighten the day and hopefully keep them cool. And so they pay better attention, shoot a little better, but just so mainly so they're smiling when they leave.
I got a creature comfort that'll make Jennifer smile. The toilets, they flush
Real toilets are always a plus.
You
They're
can
clean,
wash your
too.
hands afterwards.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
I know every time I haven't gotten down there yet because just life things, I haven't done as much shooting this year, but every time Greg goes, he comes back and talks about new things. So what would be the newest prop or the newest cool thing that you have for shooters to shoot?
All right, I'm gonna let the hog out of the bag for y'all this evening. We got a moving target, which that's no big secret. I've been kind of putting little blurbs on Facebook about it, but the target's actually a hog. And being that we have not shot it in a match prior to this match, I'm not going to shoot it in the match, but it's going to be up and running on Friday while you're sighting in and checking your dope and all that. We're going to have a little side match on Friday and see who's the best on the moving target. And by the end of the day, somebody's going to put $500 in their pocket. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
I'm
Not
spending
sure.
all of this weekend shooting my mover practicing. I
How
know
many
I ain't
shooters
gonna win the
do you think-
match.
How many shooters do you think you'll have for that match? How many? rifles?
It's looking like we're going to be 100 plus or minus just a few right this minute, but they're still signing up. We have been blessed with attendance. I think we had close to the top one day attendance this season. I mean,
There have been some ridiculously large one days out there.
yeah, we're blessed to be in a good area. And like you say, I keep trying to change things. I mean, one thing nice about Cool Acres is that the dirt out there is sand. And I still have my machinery from when I did site work. So it doesn't take nothing but a little bit of time and some diesel fuel to move that dirt around. So I can move it around and change the look of it. It's going to look quite different this time when you come, I believe.
So I've seen lots of pictures of stuff moving around out there here recently.
I had a little breakdown on the excavator, but we got it fixed today. So
That's
it'll be back in business this weekend.
Over in the comments, everyone said you left out the catchphrase, "It's always cooler at Cool Acres."
That's it.
And Tracy Lewis said, "Thanks to y'all for everything you do. You have an amazing range to shoot at, and it's always cooler at Cool Acres." Then Mike's complimenting your delicious hamburgers. They are good hamburgers when you get them out there.
Yeah, that's my wife again.
She does a good job of keeping all of us fed out there. That is for sure.
Sounds like we need her on the show too.
She's here. She's always got my back. She had to help me get hooked up. I was having a little bit of an issue with my computer.
It happens. It happens.
Mhm.
So other than the 2-day, we talked about some 1-day, some 2-day. Kind of tell us what all it is that y'all do there. So is it just PRS? Is there any rim fire? Is it 1-day, 2-day? Tell us.
We
what all you
had very good rim fire. The rim fire has been outstanding as well. We had over 60 competitors at one of our 1-days. We're going to host the Southeast finale. Hopefully I said this right, for the rimfire season. That's coming up October 29th.
I'll say that the official name of the match is so much of a mouthful that I had to actually write
Yeah.
the notes. The Southeast PRS Rimfire Regional Finale. But yeah, and they I like the way you guys schedule it as well. So a lot of times when they're running a match out there, what Eric will do is run a center fire match on Saturday and then a rimfire match on Sunday. And I've said literally all year that I'm going to go out and stay in town and do both. And it never fails that either something urgent comes up that I have to deal with, or I think the first one I tried to, I ended up sick as a dog, coming in like last place at the match on Saturday, barely making it home and sleeping all day Sunday. But that's a pretty cool format because I know people can tow their campers out there as well, right? So if you have a camper and you want just like a nice relaxing weekend in the woods with shooting 2 matches.
That's right. That's right. It's really it's really cool because what happens is Saturday after the center fire is over, then we usually end up cooking something around the house out there, sitting around talking. And we're just building a great group of camaraderie with a lot of different people. And it is boondocking camping. We don't have any hookups yet, but we'll get there. It just might be another year or so before we can make that happen. The underground utilities they're not cheap.
They are not.
But we're growing tremendously, and it's just a fun time. There's nothing, I don't know how else to describe it. When you, and a steak always tastes better on the range out there in the open air.
That is the truth. And then you know, if you don't have a shower in your camper, you can get a fresh shower at night, right?
That's right. That's right. We've got 2 showers in those bathrooms, and they work really, really well. And so that's it always makes it better.
Yeah, that is awesome. So that pretty much covers that and that. So on to the 2-day. I know right now there's a call for more ROs, right? You guys are still needing ROs.
Yeah, we could still use a few. We don't need too many, but I would rather have a couple extra that are there in case someone has to leave an emergency or just to help out on a stage that might be giving us a little bit of a fit or something, So yes, we need a few more. Still looking for them. And I have offered, or I'm going to host the ROs a weekend where we'll actually do the go over the loading class or load work on their rifle for them, or whatever they want to do. I'll be there on a Saturday and Sunday, and they can bring their gear out there, and we'll see if we can't tighten them up a little bit.
That is awesome. Are ROs eligible to shoot the side stage on Friday?
Sure.
There we go. Your chance at $500 cash to come RO.
That's right.
Jen, you want to RO?
I gotta teach Stop the Bleed that Saturday.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, I definitely agree with having more ROs is always good. I know we were a few short that were stuck in Florida this last weekend at the grind. So
oh Lord, yeah.
It was work, but still totally worth it.
That was a great match, looked like.
It really was. It's it was my first match to shoot, like literally I shot pistol, I shot carbine, but it was my first precision rifle match that I ever shot. Threw the gun together and shot that as Jennifer's amateur the year after her first match was shooting the grind. So it's kind of like near and dear to my heart that I shot that one match, and years later I'm still doing it and still loving it. So it's always great to give back to the amateurs and kind of help them have an amazing first match experience. I think when I shot it, the regional series was a little bit less popular. It was still growing, and there were still like dead spots where like where we were before. And you're kind of a huge blessing to us, because when I first started shooting, the closest match was Phil's match that he was running, the MPA match at Arena, that was 5.5 hours from us. And then past that, the next closest one was K&M at 7 hours. So having you like an hour and 45 minutes from us makes it a lot more doable. So at the time, it's like that was the logical thing to do. If I'm going to drive hours and hours and hours and pay 2-day prices, might as well go shoot the gap run for the first match. And yeah, but it was an awesome weekend out there. We had absolutely beautiful weather. There was a lot of really cool family teams. The Truitts had their youngest daughter out there. I think Warren was shooting with his dad. I think a couple of the guys from Area 419 were shooting with family. So it was a really, really, really cool event, as it always is. And the weather this year was, even though there was a giant hurricane going on, we had no clue about it over there in Tennessee.
Who all won that match?
Oh gosh,
Do you remember?
There's so many different ways to win it. So the first place pro-am team was Tate Streeter. Second place was Chad and his am, I believe. But then they have the class up team. So Francis and Lily won that. And then different people won the match overall. I was so confused at that point in time trying to figure out who was winning what. And then the fun part was when I think the best award that just confused, if you didn't know the PRS really well, confused the ever living crap out of people, was first place pro PRS amateur. So the individual,
I understand, but it took a minute.
yeah, exactly. I was saying that when that happened, I'm like, okay, whiteboard's done.
Makes sense now, but yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know, that to not leave you hanging, PRS has different classifications, like based on how you shoot. And then, so what is it? Pro, semi-pro, marksman, amateur? Isn't there 5 or just 4?
Lord, I'd have to get the rule book out and look.
Anyway, so when you go to a match, if you, whatever within your class, whoever's the top out of that class. So like the amateur class in the PRS might be shooting as a pro in the gap grind, but they win because the gap grind, for anybody that doesn't know, is, it's the pro-am, but the pros still are shooting for points for the series. So they still have a top pro, top semi-pro, top marksman, top amateur. And so you could be the top pro PRS amateur. It's possible.
Yes, but there were lots of different winners, lots of really deserving, really good shooting out there. I'm trying to see if I could pull up the list of everybody that won everything. But there's a lot.
And I heard there were lots of young people out there just tearing up the range.
There were, there was.
Everyone should be scared because they're coming. They're coming for us.
They are. They're flexible. They're fast. They don't need glasses to see.
It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, it's an unfair advantage.
They're limber. They can get in all kinds of positions.
They bounce back up. Let's see. I'm still trying to find this list. There are so many great posts about the gap grind, and I can't.
While he's looking for that, Eric, your next match, the 2-day, what is the date on it?
It's the 15th and the 16th. It's
Okay.
Not this weekend, but the one after.
And it's located, for those that don't know,
Near Swainsboro, Georgia, in the heart of Georgia.
in
But-
God's country.
That's right.
In the
Rattlesnake
South.
capital of the world. Then after that match on the 29th, we're having the Rimfire Southeast finale. And we're expecting a pretty large turnout on that. And it's a one-day match, but we're going to have a blast on that one.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, the Rimfire, I in the beginning, it was fun, but it's just a whole lot funner now because I get all the concussion on Saturday, but on Sunday I don't even have to wear earplugs just because it's so much quieter, and it's a little more relaxing.
So
And,
if anybody still wants to get into a 2-day match, a 2-day PRS match, though, y'all still have slots open.
oh yes, we do. Yes,
Register.
we do. Mhm. Yeah, I don't like I said, I think we're going to have somewhere 100, 105. So we can take 20 more or so. And so yeah, I think everybody will get in that wants to shoot.
So if you're still looking for a 2-day pro series match, you can always
You need
register.
those points. come and get them. They're there.
Yep. No,
Trophies are looking fantastic too.
no cooler place to do it, right?
Yeah, it's the coolest place. It's the coolest range, coolest little range in Georgia. And back to what he said about having to drive and all that. You know, since I started that place, we've cut the driving time down for a lot of people for all kind of shooting formats, the F class and the bench rest that we shot there in the early years. You know, driving, if you drive under 5 hours for long range shooting, you're blessed. If it's under 3 hours, you're more than blessed. And if it's only an hour or two, you're just near about in heaven, to be honest about it.
I love it. I've been able to leave early in the morning, get there, shoot, and get home in time for a kind of late dinner. And then also on the driving side of things, you know, some of these ranges that we go to, you know, will be literally in the middle of nowhere, and like short of maybe 1 or 2 Airbnbs around, you're driving 40 minutes to an hour to a hotel or an Airbnb or something like that. It's 15 minutes to the center of Swainsboro, maybe 20.
15, it's 15. Oh, let me say this. If you are planning to come and you haven't secured your room yet, you want to make sure to do that. Everybody thinks that little town isn't that busy, but those hotels, they have all kind of functions, especially getting into this time of year. They might have, they do a lot of fox hunting around there. They can fill up with fox hunters in about pretty quick. So you make sure you get a room. If you don't find a room there, you can usually find one in Vidalia. That's about 30 minutes south of the range. It's a little bigger town. There's a few more hotels down there, but most people prefer to stay in Swainsboro.
They got a real good steakhouse in Vidalia too.
Which one was that?
Oh, if I
Can't
remember,
remember the name.
what was it? I know it was on the left side of the road. I was really hungry at the time I got there.
It was on the left side of the road.
That's
Sure you
about
weren't
all I
drinking
got.
before you got there?
It was
Coming
dark.
from-
I was hungry, but the food was really, really good.
That's like saying it was a really great restaurant. It had a kitchen.
I know. And I mean, just like, you know, the guy, you remember the guy at the match with the tan pants and the beard? Just as descriptive.
Every restaurant is on the left side coming from one way or another.
I know. That's why I said it was useless.
Unless it's a dead end street.
But you can still go down and turn around,
You can still go down and turn around.
where you could live at the end of the dead end street.
That's right. You never know.
That's true.
You never know. Did you find the gap grind scores? Is that what you were
I
looking?
did. All right. So we're not going to go through everything. But so the top pros from 5 to 1 was Nathan Cushman, Chris Simmons, Chad Heckler, Francis Cologne, and Daniel Herod. Then on the AMs is Caleb Pernington, Ryder Smith, Jeff Johnson, Taylor Yock, Toby Phillips. And then in teams, which is really what the whole match is based around, is your true pro-am teams. And 5th was Troy Livesay and Rick Lovely. 4th was Daniel Herod and Vince Yarling. 3rd was Ryder Smith and Joey McConnell. 2nd was Chad Heckler and Jacob Throat. 1st was Toby Phillips and Tate Streeter.
I was wondering, you said Tate Streeter won the teams, and I was like, wait, he did both?
No, so I didn't know his AM's name off the top of my head when we were talking before, but
Gotcha. I love that match. I love to watch the newer shooters have some successes and get excited and get addicted and love it. Yeah. I love all the sharing, you know, everybody's calling, everybody encourages everybody. I just love that match.
so there were lots of squads that had the whole gap grind feeling going on. I don't want to like be calling favorites or anything, but I think that the squad that when they shot my stage had the biggest feeling of the gap grind would be the squad that Chad and Francis were on. They were running through these AMs like a pit crew. Francis was down on his knees on the tripod behind every prone shooter. Sometimes Chad was on the side and Francis would call it, add 0.2 to the dope. And before the shooter looked up, click, click. They had some really good runs. Everybody was smiling. Everybody was laughing. Everybody was having a good time. And not that all of the other squads weren't, but like the efficiency of which they transferred good information onto these new shooters was awesome. All while shooting an awesome match themselves.
Of course.
And then another cool one, Daniel Ferris bought his, I want to say 10-year-old son out there with, of course, matching jerseys with dad. And he came down, shooting the prone stage, and on his, as he hit that last shot and realized that he cleaned the stage, which not a lot of people did. Everyone's like, oh, high five, bud. This little boy, he got up on his knees and he dropped his magazine and he put his chamber flag in, then he high-fived that. It was awesome.
That is awesome. I love the spirit of that match. So
Me too.
That's the spirit of PRS. That's what
Mhm.
that's what it does. It's the best shooting format. I've seen them all over a lot of years, and it builds unbelievable camaraderie among the shooters, all age levels. It's fabulous. Like I said, there's a little grumbling every now and then, but it doesn't last long, and it's never very loud. So and that's for me to do the range. That's what I really get paid. Somebody there having a good time. That's what it's there for. A safe, good time shooting. And that does me more good than anything. That's why I put my money in it.
that's right. So we have a couple of lives here. Let's see. Mike Bell wants to know, for the Rimfire Southeast series finale, are there going to be any Rimfire vendors out there?
I haven't been contacted by any vendors saying they would like to come, but if there's Rimfire vendors that would like to come, I'm sure we could accommodate them. We'd be more than happy to help them set up or whatever. We'd love to have them.
So y'all heard it. If you're Rimfire, you need to get out there. You need to probably see Kevin Kinsner would go out there with GSL suppressors for 22 suppressors.
That's right. It doesn't have to be Rimfire. I mean, any vendor that would like to come. I mean, we always welcome the vendors, because without the gear, I mean, you're in the dark. And it's an excellent place to show your gear, just because there's a lot of shooters there, and they got their phones with them. They're never far from sending that picture to somebody else. You never know how many people might see it for the end of the day.
That's very true.
I know Phil Cashin has everything to set up a little mobile store out there.
He has his trailer there, and that's mostly for support.
Yeah.
I don't see him selling too much out of there, but like if something happens to your rifle, he's right there helping you get it running again.
I know he has like the slat wall and everything to hang stuff on. He'll set it up at the finale and stuff. So
oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Expo. That's what I was trying to say. PRS Expo.
Yep.
You ought to tell him he needs to bring down stuff for 22. He sells 22. So, and Scott Joyner says, can't wait for the Rimfire finale. I don't know, Scott. I don't know if we're going to invite you.
Oh, he's already got his invite, but he might not.
Yeah, the invites went out already. And the
Oh, I didn't mean off of shooting ability. I meant off of character.
well, sometimes we just gotta look the other way.
Just picking on you, Scott. Love you, mean it.
He sent me a picture of the invite and then said, do you have any Center X? I'll check.
If you need some, Scott, give me a call.
There you go. And then Dave says, thank you, Eric and crew, for all you do. Love Cool Acres.
Sweet. Excellent. The also on the back to the Rimfire finale, it will open up at 7 a.m. on October 10th for everyone else that hasn't been invited to register. So, and it'll be back on Facebook and our website. So if you want to come and you didn't get invited, don't worry. We got room for you. You just go to our website and check it out.
So no excuses. Everybody can go shoot.
I'm
You
sorry.
don't- So
I
we're
said,
about
no
at the
excuses. Everybody can go shoot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. There won't be no need for excuse because we'll make room for you.
We're about at the midpoint of the show. Reminder, if you're watching us live on Facebook, ask any questions you may have here in the comment section of the video, and we'll do our best to ask it live on air. Other ways to catch us, you can always check back on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page. The videos stay up there forever. We usually upload all of the podcast apps the night after the show. And then finally, everything eventually end up on the Shooter's Mindset YouTube page. So that's a great place to kind of look back and see some past episodes. So we've talked a lot about shooting, but in addition to shooting, you are kind of a highly skilled reloader. How long have you been reloading, and what prompted you to get into it?
I started reloading shortly after I built, well, actually before I built the first range. I bought that property up there, and the gentleman that I bought it from, his uncle would come up there, and he was a hand loader out of Florida. And we got to shooting around, and he shot some pretty good groups. So I got to paying attention to what was going on. And he helped me, got me my first tools, dies and presses and all that stuff. And I started doing a little reloading. That was, like I said, that was some kind of early in the 90s. I don't know, mid 90s. But then as the range grew, the reloading needs grew, the skill level needed to grow. And it pretty much initially centered around the 308 because I was shooting FTR at that time. And I was never able to compete as much as I wanted to. It just, I was working still all the time. And I mean, we had two small children, and I just couldn't go off and shoot whenever I felt like it. So we shot a few matches around, and I had the Savage Model 12 in 308, their F-class rifle, and I did quite well with it. I went to Butner several times and did pretty well. Again, and there's some highly skilled shooters up there. They've been shooting up there a long time. And so from that, I shot F-class for a while, and then we started hosting the bench rest crowd. We started having bench rest matches. And about the first, 5 years of that, I didn't shoot any. I just would host a match and score the targets and watch and learn. And I did pick up a bunch of tips from the F-class guys. And we had a lot of national champions come through that place just because there's not that many places to shoot 1,000-yard F-class. And so then the bench rest, when the bench rest guys come, I would listen to them, and I started shooting it. I bought a heavy gun. It was a 300 WSM, and it weighed about 80 pounds. And I'd never loaded anything like that before. So one of the guys came down, and he kind of helped me with that thing on a Friday. And it really didn't really shoot like I was hoping it would that afternoon. And so I went back to the house and I pulled out my notebooks, and I just sat there and thought about it a while. And I adjusted it a little bit. And the first two matches that I shot, I won the matches for score. And you can win a bench rest match. At that time, you could win by group or score. They would have a relay winner, and then they would have a shoot off. It depended on how many relay. If you had 3 relays, there would be 3 people in the shoot off, and then the one that had the highest score would win. And so I think that year that I shot, I was a rookie of the year. I didn't really shoot that many matches, but I was a rookie of the year bench rest shooting. And then I just got better from there. 2008, somewhere around that time rolled around, and things got really tough for me. The economy went south. The work I was doing went south. and I had a lot of time, and I spent way too much time at the shooting range, just improving, and pushing myself to shoot better, try and figure it out.
I just want to clear something up real quick. There is no such thing as too much time at the shooting range.
Well, honestly, I have more time on a 1,000-yard shooting range than probably most people could have in 4 or 5 lifetimes. There is too much time. I've done things out there that a lot of the things that I have figured out, they're not in a book. They're not talked about. They're just things that worked, and they worked on accident. But fortunately, I took pretty good notes and documented it, and then I was able to go back and make it repeat. I may not can explain why it happens, but it will happen every time in the loading process. But so I've got probably 3 or 4 boxes of plaques and stuff that I won shooting bench rest. I never went back and shot too much F class at that point. Around that same time, I had a detached retina on the job one morning, and I've got 16 cuts on each cornea anyway. I had an RK surgery before they had LASIK, so I get a lot of fluctuating vision. But unfortunately, the torn retina was in my right eye, and it's good some days and not good other days. So, and my back is pretty well shot. So laying down there trying to shoot F class is just, it's not for me so much anymore. I kind of did everything I wanted to do in the bench rest for now. I may shoot it again, but the reloading skills, it pretty much comes down. I've read all the books. It comes down to attention to detail. There's so many ways. It's like building a race car engine. There's so many ways you can go about it. And to say one's better than the other, you would have to document the success of it, I guess, because you've got to intermix the shooter's ability in with what you're reloading. But so many people that come to the range, I watch them zero, and their rifle might be shooting a little clover leaf, and they're happy with that, and I don't say nothing. But I learned this kind of backwards. This is one thing I learned backwards. I always, when I shot bench rest, to work up a load for a rifle, I felt like you had to work it up at the distance you were shooting, whatever distance that was. And there was a gentleman that we shared a lot of information with. I really don't even know who he is. We just shared information. We never talked to each other's name or nothing, but we passed along a lot of so-called secrets. And he got mad with me. And he told me that if the rifle will shoot at 100 yards, it'll shoot at 1,000 yards. But I hadn't gotten to the point where I could make a rifle do that at that particular time. And the way I got there was helping Andy Lewis tune his rifle at 1,000 yards. And usually I would help bench rest shooters tune a rifle at 1,000 yards, 600 yards or whatever. And that was the end of it. We didn't come back and check it at 100 yards because it was shooting good at the yardage, at the intended yardage of use. But Andy, he'd crank it right back to 100. He's wanting to check his zero. And it was going in one hole. And it got me thinking about it. Maybe the gentleman was right. So I started doing checking some other things. And sure enough, if you're tuning a rifle, if you want to tune a rifle to shoot well, PRS rifle, because a PRS rifle has to shoot every bit as good as you can make it shoot, or you don't know if you've made a good wind call or just got lucky. If it's shooting a half a minute, that's not good enough. That rifle needs to be shooting a third of a minute, at least. but it's not really hard. All rifles will shoot the one whole group, and unless there's something wrong with it, naturally. But a good rifle today, barrels today are so much better than they were even 5 years ago. The process has changed, the way that they manufacture them. I don't want to give out any trade secrets over the air, but they've done different things to those rifles in the last 5 years, and the barrels are just so much better.
So you're doing some reloading classes, aren't you?
I've offered them, and I've trained a lot of people one-on-one for the reloading class, but I'm trying to do the classes in a group of 3 or more. Start with a group of 3 and then work up. I've tried it all kind of ways, but it seems people are kind of dragging their feet a little bit. They'll pay the money for the scope and for the rifle. I can't understand why they wouldn't want to pay the money to learn how to load. They try to get that off the internet, which is fine. But
There's a lot of misleading things on the internet.
That's where I was going. There is. You have to be able to realize when someone's going down a path you really don't want to go down. There's a lot of these people I see actually giving away information. All their information is not bad, and all their information is not good. The problem is when building a race car engine or a rocket ship, you leave out one intricate detail, and the whole sum of all the components you've just done is useless. They're just. For example, I was working on a rifle. I developed loads for some manufacturers, and the people want their rifle a custom load for the rifle. They send it to me, and I work with it. What it comes down to is the barrels. Like I said, the barrels are so good today. Usually there's not any trouble with the barrel. It's what you're learning is the chamber. As long as you've got in a 6mm, if you're dealing with a 237 or a 236 bore, there's only so much pressure you're going to put through that bore before something comes apart. But this particular rifle was in a caliber that is a longer, more slender powder column. That they're not my favorite. I like the short and fat. That's where it's at. But they just perform better. But these long, slender powder columns, and this particular customer gave me a specific components that he wanted to use, and I just couldn't make it work. It wasn't working. There was nothing wrong with anything. Everything looked fine. I was getting velocity spikes that I couldn't really explain. It would shoot good a little bit, and then it would have a spike. And so I called him and I said, "Look, if this was my rifle, I would change powder." And they said, "Well, go ahead, change powder." And the first three rounds out of it had a SD of 5. So and then I shot it. I shot probably 15 rounds through it this morning, and I think the ES is somewhere around 12, which is fine. The SDs were 7. So, I mean, that powder is going to work in that case. And what I learned here, and I'm always learning, but what I learned here is the powder column, the longer, slender powder column, it likes a little slower burning powder. I mean, it's not a big secret, but you can't just put some 4350 in this particular case. You're not going to get the results you would get. I switched the powder to a different powder, and it's a powder that nobody much uses, but it's an excellent powder. I shot a lot of it in bench rest, and I think you can still buy it every now and then. It's not like 4350 or Varget or one of the ones that you got to have a shooter bot out there to try to locate some and be ready to buy it when it goes off. But
so people that want to maybe take a class from you, when are you gonna I know you said 3 people at a time.
Well,
And-
I'll do one, I'll do 3, I'll do whatever. I'm just trying to keep the cost down a little bit by doing 3 at a time. But maybe it's back to 1 at a time. It really don't matter to me. Usually I have to host them on the weekend. The kind of work I do, I'm on call. I never know my schedule. So, you know, a 2-day class. And if someone is proficient and they will follow instructions. I don't, when I teach a class, I don't want anybody intermixing what they've learned or what they learn on the internet. I want them to give me a fair shake and do exactly what I tell them. Don't call me up and say, well, that's all this on the internet. Try to add that into a process that I've spent years developing. It's proven. If you follow what I tell you, it's going to work. And when you have an issue, you're going to call me and tell me what your issue is. I probably will know what the area that you're not doing what needs to be done. But yeah, the classes, I have several people that wanted to come and they want a date. I haven't set any dates. What I'm trying to do is get the people to tell me when they would like to come. And most of my weekends are free except for when we're hosting PRS matches or preparing. Like the last couple of weekends, we've been preparing for this 2 days. So naturally I haven't been able to do that. So around the 1st of January would be a good time. It's usually cooler out there. I like to do those kind of things when it's cooler, not 100 degrees naturally. So
what all's included in the class and how much does it cost?
Okay. There's several different classes. You can bring your gear and all your dies. I want you to bring your stuff because you can come there and I can use my stuff and I can make in 30 minutes, I can have your rifle shooting 1 hole groups at 100 yards. I'll look inside of it and make sure everything looks good. It won't be no problem. But if you didn't learn how to do that using your gear, I haven't taught you anything but to come there and let me make you ammo. And I don't want to do that. So if you bring your gear, like I said, a one-on-one class, a 1-day class is typically $1,000. That's why I'm trying to do 3 at a time, and I can do it for less, you know, maybe $750 a person, and we can talk about it. You get 5 that want to come, and everybody knows everybody, and they all got relatively the same gear. Now, an idea was presented to me where I would provide the dies, the press, just everything needed to make this ammo. You tell me what caliber you want, and I would use out the gate. I would use the Redding press, oh Lord, my mind is going. It's late for me. The Redding. Well, I can't call the name of the press right now, but I would use the Redding press. No, I'd use the Forster coaxial press. There we go. I got it out. I could see it in my mind, but I couldn't find the words. But I would use the Forster coaxial press because that particular coaxial press will allow you to put the lock rings on there, and you can interchange calibers without ever losing your die setup. You don't. You know, when you screw the die in and screw it back out, setup is a lot of people's problems. They can't do the setup twice in a row the same. And one of the things I learned very early on when I had that 308, I bought a nut to check the base to ogive with. And I was trying to load up there at the range, plus load back here at the other location. So I didn't want to carry my gear back into it. So I bought another nut. It looks identical, right? I mean, they look identical. You can measure them. They're the same size.
Nothing is identical in reloading is one thing I can say.
Exactly. That is very true. But this is a long time ago when I was very green. So I would load cases at the house, take them up there, and they've shot like the devil. And then I'd load them up there and they'd shoot fine. I'd measure with the nut up there and measure. Finally, I got the 2 nuts side by side, and there was 18 thousandths difference in the base to ogive between them because the whole board in the nut was slightly I mean, it doesn't take much to make 18,000. You couldn't really measure it. I didn't have good enough tools back then. But anyway, back to the reloading cost. That class there, if I provide all the equipment in a 2-day class, I was going to do that for $2,500. And I think, honestly, I think everybody thinks that's too much. But by the time you price all the equipment out and what you're going to learn, that'd be the cheapest class you ever had. And this information will stick with you from the time until you don't shoot anymore. I mean, they'll spend the money on the gear, but they don't want to spend the money on practicing and getting their rifle set up the way it needs to be to shoot the one-hole groups.
I'd say that press in itself, isn't that a $500 or $600 press?
Oh yeah, typically, yeah. On the dies, you know, a full set of dies is $200-300.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for good dies.
Mm-hmm.
But then all the lube will come with it. And then the knowledge to use it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, I easily have more than $2,500 worth of reloading stuff.
Oh, that's a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's not a cheap sport. I'm not going to apologize for that. Nothing about it's cheap, but just the amount of time and the amount of components that you would waste trying to get to this point. I mean, a lot of people never have that much time to get where they'll get in a weekend with the instruction. But
You're talking about like the box of 300 Burger 105s that I had to pull because I was still learning how to reload and messed up really big, really bad.
well, that'll happen. That'll happen from time to time.
Uh-huh.
But the basically one of the key things in reloading, everybody knows, is brass preparation. And I mean, this is no big secret. I've got a pretty good program written down for that. This is the way I do it. I mean, I'll deprime the brass. The first thing I do is deprime it. Then I'll clean it. I clean it in stainless steel media first. And I like to do that so the primer pockets get clean also, because then I'm going to inspect it. And what I'm telling you here is for PRS style shooting. The bench rest or F class, it would be tailored a little bit different because they're slightly different. The end results are a little bit different. We're looking to shoot, you know, under 3 inches at 1,000 yards for bench rest shooting and such. And a PRS rifle just a little different, but after I inspect it, then I'll anneal the brass, and then I'll lube and size, and then I'll remove the lubrication in another cleaning. It's like a second cleaning, getting the lube off of it. But during that, it actually lubes up the inside of the neck the way that I do it. Then I chamfer, deburr, and they're ready to prime and load at that point. But one question a lot of people ask is, do I anneal every time? The answer to that is absolutely. And I've used a bench source annealer that works fine. I've used the amp annealer. I like it because I don't have to go buy gas. I just plug it in and it works. But we can discuss the annealing in the class. I'll go into what I'm looking for when I'm annealing brass. It's not that much different than the normal, but there's certain things I look for when I'm annealing in the brass to make sure I've got it to where I want to do it. It depends on which manufacturer you're using, Norma, Lapua, or something else.
That amp annealer is pretty sweet. Their team actually flew in from New Zealand to the grind over the weekend. I thought that was pretty cool. They're finally out of lockdown, and the first place they decided to come was to the States to the world's largest PRS match. So we were planning on asking kind of a question. We're kind of going into this now, of kind of what your process would be for reloading a new caliber. So we got what the brass prep process would be. What's kind of I guess the high level overview of how you would dial up that load real quick for a new gun that you had nothing on? I know, there's always the option of I could go on Facebook and say, hi guys, I just got a 6.5 millimeter Creedmoor and I have powder. How much do I put in? But there's better methods than that, right?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Well, see, I have to be careful here. Excuse me. But I have reloaded so many calibers now that I pretty much got in my head. I don't look at the book that much anymore unless it's something new. I know about where to start with just about any of the powders. But what you want to do, if you've not done it before, you need to get a book, a good reloading manual, and you need to look in there, and you need to start at the bottom of that scale in the loading manual, and then just keep increasing it up until you see your pressure signs. And you don't. A lot of the loads that are used today are in excess of the loading manual, but you want to be very careful there. If you feel you want to observe the brass, observe the primer. Is it flat? Is it near piercing? You never want to pierce a primer. If I pierce a primer, in the beginning, I would pierce a few primers, but once I learned you don't want to pierce primers, you're ruining your equipment at that point, in my opinion. So stay away from that. There's no real advantage running the hottest load that rifle will withstand. The most accuracy you will have is in the node, a node or two or three down from the high-end node. And I think one thing good about the PRS, a lot of shooters have realized this, and in order to shoot better, they're trying to manage their recoil so they can spot their misses or spot their hits so they can stay on target. And most of your shooters are shooting somewhere between 2750 to 2900 being on the high end. And I personally don't like the shooting that. I'll use my son, for example. I load everything goes in his rifle. And he's shot the same barrel. This is for 2.5 seasons, I think. And I need to check it again to see, but it's been shooting very well. And we really haven't had to change the load. I haven't even had to alter the bullet seating or anything from the initial load that I put in that rifle. That barrel has been a really good barrel. But we're not running that thing. He's running he's run both the 105s and the 109s around 2840 and upwards of 2875. So I like to stay under 2900. There's a good node for some of them around 2920, but you're using a lot of barrel life. You get over 2950. You're just at 1200 rounds, you better be looking at it because you're hurting it. If you go over 3000, you'll be lucky to get 15. And that's just my opinion now. These are opinions from my experience. Some people may have better success, but one thing I learned, and I forget who said it, this a long time ago. I think it was John Wooden. He told me, he's won a lot of championships. He told me that as long as he was within 200 feet of his nearest competitor, he was still competitive. If the rifles were shooting equal, and the other guy was shooting 3000 because he shot a lot of 243, and the other guy was shooting 3200, he still felt competitive. But if he was at 2900 and the other guy was at 3200, he's leaving something on the table. So that said, 2,800 to 2,900, you're not leaving anything on the table. You're better off to shoot a little slower. If you're worried about the wind, shoot a heavier bullet. Shoot something a little heavier. But the barrel, like I said, the barrels, they're all really good. Doesn't really much matter. They all brands seem to be pretty good. Some seem to last a little longer than others. Again, that could go back to how fast you're shooting them.
That makes sense. I've seen people struggle with all of those things, you know, shooting out a 6.5 Creedmoor barrel in 1,800 rounds. And then other friends that are shooting 6mm with 2,800 rounds on them still rolling. So it's kind of obvious. I'm curious to see how long my 6GT barrels last. I've had them for embarrassingly long and haven't shot one out yet, but it's not because they last forever. It's because I have not shot near as much center fire, but I've been
How fast are you running them?
2980. So they're cooking. They are definitely cooking. But they're still working. I kind of got a load that's working really good for me, and I figure I'll go through barrel number one, see how long it lasts at that. Probably end up having it go down on me in the middle of a match because I haven't even started prepping the second barrel, but we'll see.
One thing you want to do when you're checking the barrel, you check it at 100 yards, but you need to check it at 600 or 1,000, because as a barrel goes, it'll show up at those yardages way before it shows up at 100.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can still be shooting one hole at 100, but it's losing a little bit of RPM, let's say, on the bullet, so it's dropping off at yardage.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hoping to get out to do a little play around practice day sometime soon, and I'd like to go see what it does group at this age at those distances. So back to your classes now, and we kind of touched on this earlier. First off, on the live side, sorry, Andy Lewis said we all buy the wrong stuff first. This class would be way cheaper, which is definitely true. I have an entire closet back here of stuff that I bought shooting related that was probably not the right thing. So that's a very valid point that you'll save money from.
I think I got a semi truck full.
So for PRS, I'm struggling with finding the right balance between efficiency and reloading, because my day job, I'm an engineer that works in manufacturing. So like the way my mind programs is like, I can do this task faster by doing it this way, and this way. And then, you know, for reloading, it's like, oh, but everything has to be perfect. I know I have some friends that'll use like a ball type powder and volumetric dispensing and running on like a Dillon 650, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, this works good enough, you know, and they're shooting great in matches. And then I have other friends that are, you know, sitting there hand trickling, and they got a set of tweezers on the side if they drop one too many kernels or anything like that. Where do you sit on that spectrum? Like, what would your ideal precision versus efficiency be?
Okay, well, it goes back again to which format of shooting that I'm doing. For PRS, you know, if I'm setting there for 30.2 grains, if I end up with when I throw that charge, hopefully it lands on 30.2. I mean, but sometimes it might be 30.198. That's good enough. It might, now what I do, if I go on one side or the other, like I said, 3198 or 32, if it goes 3202, then I'll redo it. But if you have found the proper load for your rifle and you're using a powder that doesn't go crazy in the elements, it's not that critical. I can back it up. I can prove it. We can shoot it all day long, and you can see it. Just Your brass preparation is way more critical than that one kernel. I promise you, way more critical.
Well, that's the whole point of finding a node also, is so that if there's a couple of kernels more or less, it's not going to cause an issue.
Exactly.
Very, very valid point.
And remember this, this goes true in anything you do, not just reloading, but cheap, fast, and good. You only get 2 out of 3. Only get 2 out of 3. Can't have all 3.
That is the truth.
That is true.
What do you use for a powder scale or a dispenser?
Well, I've been using the auto trickler, and for trickling, I've got the V4 now. For the scale, so I'm using FX120i. I've used that for years and years. I can't remember. I was using that before Adam came out with the first auto trickler. I was using that scale. I don't even remember when that was, but that's been a long time ago.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm looking at doing a little bit of changing up of my reloading room myself and just kind of trying to get opinions. And that's actually kind of how this whole thing started out. I was scrolling through Facebook and saw Andy Lewis's like just absolutely insane, awesome reloading setup, and asked him at a match, like, hey, you want to come and talk about what your reloading setup is on the show? Because I'm myself trying to learn more, and then it's good information to get onto the shooters. And he's like, no, but how about the person that taught me how to reload come on? And I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds better.
And he's a super guy.
Yeah.
But all that high tech gear is really not needed. You can do the same thing with a balance beam.
I just don't want to.
The balance beam, many bench rest shooters still use a balance beam. They won't use the electronic scale.
I am totally down with an electronic scale.
Oh, I love it. It's every bit as good in my book. Like I said, I don't try to build loads anymore that where I've got to cut kernels, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
One kernel on either side, and I'm good. That's the kind of load I try to build. I'm sure, I'm sure people rolling over by what I said, but that's fine. I mean, like I said, I've got more time on 1,000-yard range putting projectiles downrange than probably most people could do in 4 or 5 lifetimes.
That's true. So what do you think the future holds for Cool Acres? Like, what's your dream? If you could have anything happen there, what would you want to happen?
It's just going to get cooler and cooler.
You to build a big building around all of it and have it air conditioned?
Oh, I'd love that. But I'd love to put somebody told me I need to put a dome over the whole thing all the way down to 1,000 yards. And I said, I can build it. You just need to bring the money. You bring the money and I will build it. I promise you.
Here's an idea that I'd love to have in Georgia somewhere. I don't need 1,000 yards. If I could have 100-yard underground tunnel to shoot in for load development and practice and dialing stuff in, that would be so cool.
Oh, I built that in my mind. I actually built a couple of those ranges like that for when I worked for a friend of mine. I actually built them out of a 4-foot round concrete pipe. But anyway, I would love to build that up there. Once again, it comes back, and it would be easy to build. I've got everything there to do. It just comes back to the money. The pipe alone is probably $35,000. And then you've got to put a structure down there, and the air system. I'm sure we could engineer it a little bit cheaper, but it's probably $40,000 for the. You got to be safe. You don't want to breathe no exhaust fumes, no, no carbon, nothing like that.
There's a lot that goes to it.
But that would be fun. We could have in the dark matches or whatever you want to call them. That would be fun. But as far as we're going to keep improving, hopefully some camper spots with maybe some some water and some power would be nice. And just keep on growing as we can, as time permits, and as long as everybody keeps shooting.
Now I'm gonna have
Any
to.
more bathrooms?
More
Hey,
back.
that makes us happy. Greg, are there any more lives?
I'm sorry?
I was asking Greg, are there any more lives? Any more live questions?
Johnny Sprinkle said, "Thank you to Eric for all he has done. His precision shooting started at Cool Acres a couple of years ago and still continues down the rabbit hole. And Johnny is now to the point of running his own matches because of shooting your matches."
That's awesome.
Dave
See?
asked if he could move in permanently.
Hey, when he gets camper spots, sure. He'll only charge you a minor fee of like $50 a night, right?
There you go.
Make some money. All right. Well, I think we're good on live. So I think we can wind it down to shout outs. Greg, we usually let you go first.
All right, we'll start off with GSL suppressors. My little pew quieter back there. 11 on my 22. Shooters and Sharpshooters of Augusta, our local indoor and outdoor ranges. PDC Custom, the most beautiful rifle chassis known to man. Shooters World Powder for all of your reloading needs. They're still available at Shooters of Augusta, just sitting there in the display case waiting for you to come pick it up. Hunter's HD Gold. I don't remember if it was before the show, before we went live, or once we started where we were talking about how blind we all are. But that makes me feel less blind. I'm still blind, but I could see stuff much better with those. And Fix It Sticks to take these things apart and put them back together again.
That's awesome. Eric, do you have any shout outs?
I just want to shout out
Better shout your wife out.
yeah, she is wonderful. She's the real reason that the success is there. I mean, she makes sure everything gets done. She's always whipping me like a dog. I mean, not really. Well, sometimes, but the biggest shout out is just to all the shooters that come there and support us both. We love y'all. To everybody that's helped us along the way, to encouraged us. Phil Cashin for bringing the MPA regional matches there. I mean, that was a blessing for us. We were having great matches, but it just they're just better, and he's just such a fine fella. Brandon Hembry for being there and helping us get started, and Andy Lewis for coming down there and riding me till I started shooting PRS down there. And there are just so many great people that I've met along the way, and I just want to thank them for supporting us. And I'll keep doing the best I can to make it fun.
That's awesome. It is good to have a range close, within driving distance for us. So it's great to have y'all down there. And I know that's filled a hole for a lot of people. So I just want to, for my shout outs, I just want to shout out you for coming on and spending a couple of hours tonight talking about everything about the range and reloading and all that. I think it's great. I know you're very busy and you have a lot getting ready for this match coming up. So thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us. We appreciate you greatly. And thank you for all that you do for the sport. And with that, it'll be a wrap for episode, I gotta remember which one. Yeah, 386. That's a wrap for 386. And we'll see y'all next time.